Boris Johnson has been Prime Minister of Great Britain and Northern Ireland since 2019. His term of office is shaped by the radical Brexit course. He's also known for scandals that have accompanied his career. Boris Johnson directs the political fortunes of Great Britain. The Prime Minister and Chairman of the Conservative Party made a name for himself above all with the Brexit agreement. He absolutely wanted to push through the withdrawal of the United Kingdom, if necessary, without an agreement with the European Union. His plan was also thwarted by the Supreme Court, the country's highest court. The Brexit chaos joins a list of mishaps and scandals on Boris Johnson's resume. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson was born on June 19th in 1964 in New York City as one of 4 children of British politician Stanley Johnson and artist Charlotte Johnson Wall. The current Prime Minister of Great Britain thus had both British and American citizenship, which he renounced in 2016. Boris is also his middle name. His full name is Alexander Boris de Pfeffel Johnson. At the beginning of 1973, Boris Johnson moved with his family to Brussels because his father has got a job with the European Commission. There he attended the European School from 73 to 77. Even at that time he was striving for a political leadership position. He wanted to become king of the world. In 77, Johnson received a scholarship to the private elite boarding school Eton College, one of the most famous schools in England and in politics probably infamous. Many former prime ministers attended school there. Some British royals also attended the boarding school, including Prince William and Prince Harry. At Eton College, Boris Johnson began using his middle name in public appearances. He then studied classical studies at Balliol College, Oxford. Already there, he stood out for his humor and his silly manner. Boris Johnson eventually became president of the Oxford Union. The debating club, founded in 1823, is one of the oldest British student associations and is considered a training room for future leaders. After graduating, Boris Johnson set out for a career in journalism. His first job went badly, however. While doing an internship at the Times, the current Prime Minister of Great Britain was fired for falsifying a quote. His path then led him to the Daily Telegraph. From 89 to 94, Johnson was a correspondent in Brussels and reported on the European Community. Johnson's former colleague and biographer Sonia Purnell describes his texts as full of fluffy stories that often went beyond the truth. Even so, Boris Johnson became co-editor of the Daily Telegraph in 94. From 1999 to 2005, he was also editor of the conservative and EU-critical magazine The Spectator. In 1997, Boris Johnson ran for a mandate for the House of Commons for the first time. He lost in his constituency of Clyde South, however, significantly against Martin Jones, the candidate of the Labour Party. 4 years later, Johnson finally succeeded in entering Parliament. However, he did not stop his journalistic activities. In 2004, there was a scandal over an editorial after the death of Kenneth Bigley, who was kidnapped and killed by Iraqi terrorists. The text claimed that residents of Liverpool, Bigley's hometown, would become victims after his death. In addition, Liverpool fans were partly to blame for the disaster at Hillsborough Stadium in '89. Johnson took over responsibility as editor of the magazine and travelled to Liverpool to apologize. 2 years later, he had to apologize to Papua New Guinea for a testimony of his own. He had previously written in a column that the country was known for cannibalism and chief skinning. The first few years of Boris Johnson's political career were therefore rather crisis-ridden. The change came in 2008. Boris Johnson was elected mayor of London. He was able to distinguish himself especially during the Olympic Games in 2012 and was present in public. He was re-elected shortly before the sporting event. During his tenure, however, he was often considered a clumsy man, for example, when he tackled a 10-year-old at rugby in 2015. His hairstyle, which looks chaotic, also distinguishes him and gives him a certain recognition value. Nevertheless, through his electoral victories in the more liberal London, he developed into the Tories' hope for nationwide electoral success. Boris Johnson returned to the UK Parliament in 2015, while he was still in office as Mayor of London. In the meantime, he became one of the biggest supporters of Brexit, although he hasn't planned that, as we all know. Johnson compared the EU's attempt to create a united Europe with the aspirations of Adolf Hitler and Napoleon and received harsh criticism for it. Yeah, rightfully, because that's complete bullshit. Nevertheless, he was considered a possible successor to the resigned Prime Minister David Cameron. Johnson's then campaign leader, Justice Minister Michael Gove, refused to support him and ran himself. As a result, today's Prime Minister declined to run. Theresa May assumed the position and appointed Johnson as her Secretary of State. In this position, a post he wrote in The Sun fell on his feet. In it, Johnson speculated that Barack Obama could reject the United Kingdom because of his partly Kenyan ancestry. In July 2018, Boris Johnson resigned as Secretary of State after criticizing May's Brexit policy. When Theresa May resigned as Prime Minister in spring 2019, Boris Johnson ran for the Tories party leadership. He won and was named Prime Minister by Queen Elizabeth II on July 24th in 2019. Also in the position of Prime Minister, Boris Johnson pushed for Great Britain to leave the European Union as soon as possible. He represented the guideline to strive for a Brexit without an agreement with the EU. Johnson had problems finding majorities for the drafts for Brexit laws. He avoided the problem with new elections in December 2019. The Tories clearly won the election. That was the biggest mistake by the opposition, by the way. On January 9th in 2020, Parliament finally approved the Brexit agreement so that Great Britain left the EU on January 31st in 2020. On December 24th in 2020, the EU and Great Britain finally agreed on the Brexit agreement, which regulates future relations between the country and the international community. But the next crisis followed in March 2020. The coronavirus spread across Europe. At the end of March 2020, Boris Johnson infected himself with the virus and had to be treated in the intensive care unit. His corona policy is characterized by several changes of course. In June and July 2021, Boris Johnson's administration came under fire for its planned easing strategy. The first Freedom Day on June 21st in 2021, which provided for the lifting of all measures in England, was cancelled due to the spread of the Delta variant and postponed to July 19th. Despite the high incidence and criticism from researchers and healthcare workers, Johnson held to a change of course to individual responsibility that day. And I'll see you in my next video. Auf Wiedersehen.